A virtual assistant is a dedicated person solely to you, 40 hours a week. They're going to be intimately familiar with your processes, procedures. They'll have access to your management software and be able to do anything over the computer or over the phone. The cool thing about all of our virtual assistant packages is they actually all come with complimentary minutes each month towards phone tenders that you can use to back up your virtual assistants for after hours coverage or however you'd like. So some of my clients are surprised to learn that the majority of the time when I'm placing virtual assistants in property management companies, we don't necessarily look for candidates with property management experience, and here's why. There's only about 14,000 property management companies across the US. A small percentage of them have been outsourcing for any significant period of time. So instead, we look for people that have a background of project management and or customer service, because those are much bigger industries and we're able to be very specific with our qualification criteria. Okay? All of our qualification criteria revolve around three things: attendance, tenure, and integrity. If I get you somebody but they're not showing up regularly and on time, or you can't trust them, or they bounce as soon as you're done training them, I haven't done you any favors. So less than 1% of the people that apply to work through us here at VirtuallyIncredible actually make it to endorsement. The top reasons that we disqualify candidates are that we require at least 2 years average tenure across all of the positions listed on their resume. So we don't want somebody who habitually jumps from one job to the next. We make sure that they have met our minimum internet speed requirements, that they have backup internet, they meet our minimum requirements for their computer, they have a backup computer, and that they have a quiet, private workspace to avoid background noise or interruptions. And so the way that we get these people up to speed in property management is we have this training library with over 100 hours of property management 101 training that we started developing all the way back in 2008, with the original intended audience being realtors who were looking for a more sustainable income when the housing market crashed, and getting them into property management. So we have since definitely added a lot of hours to that, but we've also reproduced all that original training, all from the perspective of somebody who's working remotely for a property management company. So this will get these candidates into the who's who and the what's what of all the different departments of property management and their responsibilities to tenants, owners, and vendors when it comes to turnover, leasing, maintenance, all that good stuff. But obviously, I could show you 10 management companies with similar portfolio sizes using the same tools, and your individual processes are going to differ from one company to the next. And so that's when our incredible process building or process formalization training comes in. Okay? So we've taught all of our virtual assistants how to build processes and formalize your processes for you to where you're only having to show somebody something once. This is how it works. You either invite them into a Zoom meeting like we're in right now and record it, or you use one of our complimentary screen recording tools to create a screen recording. So you're going to demonstrate how to do a task and verbally dictate what you're keeping in mind while you're completing that task. And then your virtual assistant is going to review this recording, and they're going to create a step-by-step process and procedures document using screenshots, links, and all these other things, breaking this down one step at a time. Then they're going to file this recording along with this document together in a singular line of their spreadsheet, and this spreadsheet ends up becoming a custom training library for your individual processes. So if it's something that they just don't do every single day, they can quickly check back to this and find a step that they may have overlooked or forgotten. Or if as you scale, you're hiring additional people, you're not having to personally train each people that comes on. You have video demonstrations and a breakdown step-by-step of each of your processes. Now, generally from here, I go into things that are really easy to hand off in the first 30 to 60 days with the combination of this library and this process. So I have this broken down into 3 slides: ways they can assist on the phones, ways they can assist your leasing department, and ways they can assist in day-to-day property management logistics. Now, I get the question all the time, what can a virtual assistant do for me? And the simple answer to that is anything over the computer or over the phone. The better question to ask is, where should I get started? And I always encourage my clients to start with things that are repetitive in nature and things that are black and white decision-making calls. If this, then that. The things that need a little more context, background, or experience will come the longer that they're working with you, just like a new local hire. All right, so for leasing calls, all of our virtual assistants go through 6 hours of fair housing training before they ever meet you in an interview. So, and they're also prompted for update and refresher courses. So it's always on top of mind what they're allowed to say or not allowed to say when it comes to handling your leasing. When it comes to mainline calls, there's no better way to throw somebody in the deep end than to have them answer your mainline and answer frequently asked questions. And they can escalate anything they're not sure of. But if you find that they're escalating something they really could have handled themselves, you just simply tell them where they could find that info so they're better prepared to handle that next time. So that just kind of gives them some practical firsthand experience. Follow-up calls with applications, renewals, e-signatures, leads, even business development follow-ups. Now, I'm not recommending one of our VAs be your BDM, but they could absolutely follow up with calls, texts, and emails for anybody who's inquired about your management services and then just fallen off. When it comes to maintenance, any of our VAs can handle what I would describe as the logistics and admin side of maintenance. What I mean by that is shopping vendors for quotes, scheduling between the tenants and vendors, assigning the cost appropriately, following up to make sure that the work is done correctly and everything's functioning good, and then closing out that work order. If you're looking for somebody to independently field and troubleshoot your maintenance calls without anybody to escalate to, and they're talking to a tenant that doesn't know the right side of a screwdriver to hold, that's a special placement. We'll need to get you somebody who has practical experience of troubleshooting maintenance. We can't expect to close that gap for just anybody in our training, okay? Logistic and follow-up calls with utility companies, HOAs, code enforcements, home warranties, any of these big institutions that just love screening your calls with AI, long hold times, and call menus. Let your VA call, make these updates, give the updates, get the updates for you. Or if you feel the need for yourself or an in-house team member to be on that call with an agent, they can 3-way you in once they finally have an agent. Ways they can assist your leasing department. At our management office, as soon as we get notice of non-renewal, we have one of our virtual assistants go in and update the listing template. Make sure that the description is up to date with any new qualifications and fair housing guidelines. And if we need any more new marketing photos, scheduling somebody to go out there and take those. So as soon as we're ready to post it, it's ready to go. Managing leads that come in via phone, email, text, social media. So we have training on how to process an application from start to finish in AppFolio. And we will also provide the VA with our tenant screening checklist, which is a spreadsheet where you plug in your approval criteria, and then they'll plug in the results of everything from the credit score, debt to income ratio, rental history, income, all that stuff. And it will color code each field green, yellow, or red based on risk. And at the bottom of this spreadsheet, it will give a suggestion based on the score and how the two compare in each field to approve, conditionally approve, or decline. And so a lot of our clients really like the fact that you don't have a person making these decisions. It's an algorithm in a spreadsheet. I had one client who went through a 6-month fair housing audit and did not get one infraction, and he credits that to the fact that it was all plainly seen that a spreadsheet made all these decisions. Contract prep for leases, management agreements, renewals, non-renewals, rent increases. Not only sending them out, but following up until they're signed and returned. And then one that gets looked over a lot in our industry is removing syndicate or listings from syndicate sites. Zillow, apartments.com. Often it takes as many as 2 to 3 business days for Appfolio syndication to pull these down. And if you have a really hot listing, you're pissing people off and paying a big labor cost to tell people it's not available anyways. We send our VAs to just go directly and take those down. Property management, admin, and logistics. Time management's a big one. At our management office, we have our VAs log in an hour before our in-house team. And among their first responsibilities each morning is to organize our property manager's email inbox. So they are doing anything from coordinating schedules, coordinating appointment, confirmation things have been received, answering frequently asked questions, and then texting urgent issues to the property manager so that way they know where to start their day and don't wait to let a problem become bigger. Letters and notices. So we use a company called letterstream.com. It's a virtual post office. That way our VAs can just upload our 3-day notices or 5-day notices and then select whether they're going to send it certified, priority, or otherwise. And they just use the tracking number as confirmation it's been sent. For turnover management, another thing we do as soon as we get notice of non-renewal is the VA that's in charge of our turnover management at our office will schedule our property manager to go out the same day that we get the keys surrendered and do an inspection. Now, our property manager doesn't need to bring an iPad, a fancy camera, a clipboard. He literally just walks in with his cell phone and hits record and does a video inspection that he verbally dictates for the VA to be able to organize later. And so he just walks through and says, I notice a pet odor or a smoke odor. We want this vendor to give us a quote for this. We want to make sure we have a supporting screenshot of that, making sure to get all appliance serial numbers, light fixtures and plumbing fixtures in the video. And so then the VA will watch the move-in video next to the move-out video and oftentimes catch additional things watching the two back-to-back versus the property manager who hasn't been there in a year. And so then she will start sending vendors out for quotes and actioning all the work. And within 3 months, we actually had our virtual assistant give the initial turnaround time and estimates to the owners. And then our property managers just hop in to further explain, answer questions, or get into the in-depth back and forth. The other cool thing about having these all on video is it's kept us out of court a lot. Our local court will not let us use video as evidence, but when a tenant disputes a security deposit, we sit them down in the conference room and we give them a little bit of popcorn and we say, hey, watch the move-in video, watch the move-out video, and you tell me if you should get your, if we were right to keep your $400. Accounting, payables, receivables, any of our VAs can do that. If you want a full-on bookkeeper that can run reports, reconcile, and really know what's going on, we can do that. But again, just like that maintenance, we'll need to know up front. We can't necessarily close that big of a gap with just our training. And then follow-ups and reminders for everyone is my favorite bullet point on this entire presentation. You'll notice Kenneth is sitting in on this meeting with us. He's my executive assistant. He's been with me just about 3 years, and he sits in on all of my meetings. So when I'm in a sales meeting, if I tell you that I'll send you an agreement or send you a list of candidates, he's the one doing that. He's the one updating our CRM. When it comes to my interdepartmental meetings, if I'm sitting down with the VA department or the call center or video department, if I'm asking for a KPI that's not readily available, or if I'm delegating something to somebody, I can just say it and move on because he's in the background updating that department's to-do lists. And then a couple times a week, him and I have a few minutes to where he goes over any of these different department to-dos that are out of range. And I get to make the determination of, no worries, it's been a busy week. There was just a priority shift. Let's be politely persistent. Or, we've got a bandwidth or a performance issue that we need to jump on top of. But what I'm trying to say here is it's never a surprise if we're falling short of a goal. Okay, because I've known the entire way because I have eyes on our entire organization. These are our different packages here, okay? Now, this $6 an hour package does not come with the phone tenders credits. It does not come with the same credentials as far as our hands-on of the HR stuff, and it doesn't have the same tenure. Okay, so if you had like some really easy tasks that could handle some turnover, this would be a very affordable way to get it done. Okay, 90% of our hires fall between this $8.50 and $10.50 an hour. These are going to be the people that have the project management and or customer service background that meet our very high criteria. What it really comes down to for the $8.50 and $10.50, as brash as it may sound, is accent. Okay, somebody at the $8.50 an hour, you're totally going to be able to understand them. We don't put anybody in the communications role that you would have a hard time communicating with. They're going to speak grammatically and professionally correct. There won't be any issue understanding or comprehending on either side. However, depending on your local demographic, the knee-jerk reaction when you talk to this person on the phone might be, oh, I'm talking to somebody outside of the US. Whereas at the $10.50 an hour, they're going to be so accent neutral that they, depending on your local demographic, they could be easily mistaken for somebody in your office. The reason I keep mentioning your local demographic, down here in South Florida, where my management company is, we have every accent under the sun living on the same block. And I've got somebody at this $8.50 an hour that talks to my homeowners all the time, and people still ask for them by name when they come into the office and just think that they're a local member of the team. But then I've got some clients that are in the Midwest that wouldn't want anybody on the phone unless they meet that standard. So totally up to you. You don't even have to decide right away. You're welcome to interview from both. It's a singular page addendum for us to switch that up whenever. And then the $12.50 an hour role, that's when we get somebody with a specialized role that needs a very specific background, like the extensive maintenance background or the extensive bookkeeper background. Those positions tend to command a higher take-home pay. So they would fall under that one. But regardless of which package we go for, this is a full list of our fees here, and I'll kind of go over what the onboarding process looks like and what would be due when. So the only thing due up front for us to help you build out the scope of work and get you right into interviewing these candidates is this $299 startup. Okay, step one is going to be for you to meet with our onboarding team and have your first discovery call. They've got two goals in that meeting. One is to build out the scope of work, what this person's responsibilities are going to be, and what you want it to grow into, so we can get you the right butt for the right seat for a good long-term relationship with that person. The second is going to be to go over that training menu and put together a custom training path based on the scope of work before they get started with you. All right, from there, it's going to be time for us to do interviews. We do interviews in batches of up to 3 candidates at a time. So what we do is we block off an hour on your calendar, hop in a Zoom meeting with you, and my team will introduce the candidates one at a time for you to ask them whatever you want, and then they'll dismiss them and let the next person in. All right, now you're welcome to ask these people whatever you'd like. The majority of my clients take this time to ask questions about personality fit and role fit, trusting that we have qualified this person, because this will not be any of these candidates' first time interacting with us. They've all gone through 14 hours of qualification interviews and training before they get to this interview. Okay. Now, if you know exactly who you want by the end of that interview, great. That's ideal. Let us know. We'll have the start date on the calendar before we wrap up that meeting. If you would like some time to consider who you want to hire internally, totally fine. We'll keep these candidates off of our list for 2 business days so they don't get any competing offers from our other clients. And should you decide you want to interview additional candidates, that's totally fine. There's no extra fee for that or anything like that. We may just ask that you and I hop on another call to make sure we're shooting for the same thing and everybody's expectations are set accordingly. After we have this person complete their first day on the job with you, there is a $1,000 fully refundable payroll deposit. And so what that payroll deposit is unlike the majority of staffing companies that charge in advance and then pay out payroll and reconcile, we like keeping things super transparent. All right. We bill in arrears for actual time worked. That is just there in case we ever had a billing issue, so we can ensure the VA gets paid while we work out the billing issue on our end. The hourly rate is exactly the hourly rate. There's no Social Security, payroll taxes, or anything like that, okay? The only time this hourly rate changes would be if you had more than one virtual assistant through us. If you have 2 VAs through us, you get 10% off each person's hourly rate. If you have 3 or more through us, you get 15% off everybody's hourly rate. Now, there is a $97 per month subscription fee to work with VirtuallyIncredible. That never multiplies. You'll see this fee listed under the call center, under our video services. Doesn't matter how many services or how many VAs you have through us, this is always only ×1. What does multiply is this phone tenders credit, that 24/7 property management call center. For every VA that you have working through us, you get $60 per month complimentary towards phone tenders for your after hours calls, overflow calls, to make sure that no calls ever go to voicemail.